And here you are with me again for the end of another 72-hour fast as we've made our way into another fast to improve our metabolism. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. We are presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best plans. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who are interested in getting off of medications, who are interested in improving their metabolism. Now, let me hasten to say, if you don't have diabetes, if you are overweight, if you struggle with obesity, if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome, you've had a heart attack, you are at risk for coronary artery disease, you've had a stroke, peripheral artery disease, and on and on and on, all of those get improved with what we're going to be talking about. So just make sure you stay by. We are on our way to improving our health. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are happy that you are in this space. Whatever platform you are on, whether that is LinkedIn or Twitch or Facebook, and of course here on YouTube, we welcome you right now for our check-in and for our show. We got some things that we're going to be looking at here in just a minute. So I've got my monitors off to the side right here. I've got my monitor that we'll take a look to see what's been going on with my blood sugar. I've got right below me, this is my Dexcom Clarity Report, so you get to see what's been going on with my blood sugar. And right here, you are going to get to see what I'm going to eat for my first meal following this week's fast. So stay by for that as we continue in the show. Also, right now, we are in the process of doing our strength, strategy, and mindset. It's part of our MOVE campaign, that is metabolic optimization via exercise. And we are on day 69 of our strength, strategy, and mindset. If you've not been over there yet to hang out with us, make sure you get there, because you get to see what we've been doing as we do squats. We've got dumbbell presses, we've got press and curls, we've got dead bugs and pelvic tilts, and all of those things that are there with the intention of giving you a space and giving you an opportunity to get into the routine of improving your health. And then, of course, here, as we've been walking through our fasting this week and over the last long time, by the way, we did our check-in on Tuesday, started the fast on Tuesday. We did a check-in. So if you want to see what I ate as my last meal prior to the fast, go back and watch that check-in. We did a pop-up live right about 1:15, 1:30 on Tuesday, which is when we usually start the fast. And then, of course, last night we did our check-in. On Wednesday night we did our check-in. And our show this week on Dwain Woode MD Live was all about how do we implement the things that we are learning, how do we make it practical, and what gives us the best possibility of long-term success. So you want to make sure you get over there and make sure you watch that show from earlier this week. Right now, we're going to take a look at some of my numbers and see what's been going on with my blood sugars. Right now, as I said, I'm 72 hours into this week's fast. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of those numbers right now. Here is what my Libre says that my blood sugar is, and you see we're looking at this number right here. That's my blood sugar right now, 72. And then down below, you'll see what my blood sugars have been running over the course of the last 12 hours. The early part of the day, you see that little squiggly line at the beginning, it's red, and that is what my blood sugar was earlier, and that's below 70. And then up, as we moved into the rest of the day, you'll see that the squiggly line has been white, and so that's right above 70, okay? And then there's a light gray line that you see going across, and over to the side it says 100, and so that line is 100. So for most of today, well, most of the last 12 hours, my blood sugars have been below 100, and in some cases have been below 70. Right now at 72. So let's go and let's take a look at, this is the Dexcom Clarity, or Dexcom app, the G7, and you'll see there's my blood sugar right now according to the Dexcom. And then scrolling down, once again, there's my graph, and the graph shows that my blood sugar has been running Well, let's take a look. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the Dexcom Clarity Report, because it allows me to put my finger and I get to see what those numbers are. So you'll see there 100, and this is now 24 hours ago, 98, 100, 94, 93, 92, popped up to like 104, 103 right there, and 90s, 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 80s coming into last night, and into the 80s as we approached midnight, stayed in the 80s overnight, 90s coming into the morning, 105, 107, and then down into the 6 to 7 o'clock time. Let's see, so we started spiking up, and there's my toothpaste effect right there. Let's see, how high did it get? Look at that, only 101, 111. So that was pretty good for today, all right? So 111, and then of course where we are right now at 100. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look and see what my monitors are saying. So here's my Keto Mojo, which gives me both glucose and ketones, and then of course the Contour, which just gives me blood sugar. Let's grab from our container. We'll need a ketone strip. We'll also need a blood sugar strip, which is the brown one, if I can get it out of there. Let's see, there we go. That's for the Keto Mojo. And then I'll need a strip for the Contour. Let's get that out and then get that back. And then I'll also need a lancet, right, to get the blood. And let's go ahead and put the strip into the Contour. And people say, well, why do you use a Contour? I use a Contour because that's what we use in the office. And here is the glucose strip. Get that out and get that into the monitor. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the ketone one as well. Okay, that one opened quite nicely, actually. And then here is my lancets. Let's go ahead and we're going to pick a finger. And how about this one? And there we go. And ow, 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 ow. Let's see. Okay, so that was a pretty brisk drop. So let's get that started here for the Keto Mojo. Get the Contour going. And let's go ahead and put this back up so you see what it is. So 72 according to the Keto Mojo. The Contour says I'm 82, so 10 points apart. And then the Dexcom says I'm at 100. So let's go ahead and move back over to here. So 72. So this is more in keeping with what the others are saying. And let's get a drop of blood out because I need to change this strip and put the ketone one in. And go ahead and let me make sure this blood doesn't dry. That's a good drop right there. All right, let's go ahead and get that started. All right. And so one of the comments to make here as we are waiting for this to come up is that the meters can be between can be about 20% off from each other. So as you're looking at blood sugars, sometimes there's some confusion. Say, well, hey, which one is right, which one is wrong? So the meters, they can all be about 20% different from each other, and that still is considered to be within the range of whatever that blood sugar is. So for instance, if you have a blood sugar of 100 and you check it with another meter, or even the same meter, right? The next number that you get can be anywhere from 80 to 120. And that's still considered to be within the range. Look at that, 0.6. 0.6 is what my ketones are. And so when we talk about ketones, let me see if I can, we're having trouble with our app, but let's see if it'll work for us now. When we talk about ketones, okay, so that still didn't work, but that's okay. When we talk about ketones that are 0.5 or less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And so we want, when we're fasting, when we are eating a ketogenic diet, when we're using a fasting mimicking diet, we want those ketones to be a 0.5 or higher, because that means that our body is burning calories, is burning fat. It's burning fat, converting it to triglycerides, and then using that to generate ketones. Okay, so we like that number. The other thing that I want to take a look at is I want to pull up, here is my weight. And that's one of the other parameters that we check. So when I talk about breaking the fast, well, let me not even just breaking the fast. When we talk about metabolism, there is benefit to monitoring. Sometimes we don't want to monitor because the number causes us some distress, particularly when we look at the weight, when we look at the scale, or we look at the A1C. But the information that you're getting is simply data. And it is our interpretation of that then causes the distress. So I am a big proponent of monitoring. Monitor everything you can possibly monitor. Even if you're not diabetic, you should be looking at blood sugars. Even if you're not diabetic, you should also be checking ketones, right? Because we want to know in this space, we want to know what's going on with our ketones. And of course, one of the things that we want to monitor is our weight. And you've heard me tell my story of being 287 pounds or above. And so I am constantly, I shouldn't say constantly, I am in the process of monitoring my weight. And so I will adjust what I do based on what I see with the weight, based on the food that I see, based on the activity that I have. So it is not uncommon for me to say I eat something that I know is going to elevate my blood sugar, and so I may go walking, or I may go out back and start lifting, or I may decide that I'm going to do something differently later in the day. So you get to make decisions about how you move through your day based on the data that you get. Okay? So in the middle of my week, right, from Tuesday to Friday, more than middle, but from Tuesday to Friday, that's my fasting time. That's my fasting period. And during that fasting period, I am working to use that tool to improve or to offset maybe some things that I did before. Like last week, we had, 2 weeks ago, we had birthday sandwiched with our anniversary. So that week was a week of celebration. So, birthday cake for my son, anniversary food. We actually went to a funeral during that time, hanging out with some friends. So all those things happen, and I didn't distress over those things because I knew that I had things in place. Once again, structure. I had things in place that would mitigate some of the things that I may have done previously. Okay, so monitoring is a big component of what we suggest that you do. As we're walking through the health action plan, you want to make sure that you're looking at numbers, because those numbers have a tremendous influence on what you do. Now, the numbers, looking at the numbers, monitoring it, getting the data, doesn't fix it, doesn't change it. There's no magic in data, other than because you have the information, you now get to make choices based on what you have. And after all, that is what limitless living, That's what limitless living says. That what powers limitless living is us. And the more information we have, the more structure we have, the better we're able to make decisions that are in keeping with who we say we want to be. Does that make sense? All right. hope that does. All right, and let's go ahead now and let's take a look at my Dexcom Clarity Report and see what's been going on blood sugar wise. Now we saw that based on the graph, but let's go ahead and let's pull that up. And you see there that my average blood sugar over the last 14 days is 118. So over the last 14 days, my average blood sugar has been 118. And you saw what it was just a little while ago on the actual, at this moment. So, right? So this moment, it was 101, but the average over the last 14 days has been 118. My glucose management indicator is 6.1. So that means if I were to get an A1C right now, based on what the average was or is, it would approximate a 6.1. And then I'm in target 99% of the time, with my target being anywhere from 70 to 180. If I look at the 90-day version of this, my average blood sugar over the last 90 days now is 116, and we usually tell people we want their average blood sugar to be between 100 and 120, right? So that's the range that we want. And our A1C 6.5 or lower, so 6.1 is my glucose management indicator, so I would expect it to be around that. I'm in target 98% of the time. And I usually tell people I want the target to be 90 or above. Now, when you talk to, if you look at the numbers, if you look at articles and you're looking to see, well, what numbers should I get? You'll see some articles and some guidelines will say that you want to be in target 75% of the time, which is great. It's a great target. I really tell people I want them to be in target a lot more. Okay, so not just 90. We want you in there much longer. Okay? All right. And then let's see. So here we are. And so my target actually once again is 70 to 180. If I take this and I move to 90 days and then go to my daily graph, now we get to see what my blood sugar has been on a day-by-day basis. The other one we got an average and we got the last 24 hours. But now let's scroll back through, starting where we are. Blood sugar right now is 109. Well, it was 101 on the monitor right here, but 109. And if we start scrolling back over the last little bit, so this is today, right? Notice where we're in the 100s, went up to 117 there about 9 o'clock. 102, 101, 103, 100, and then down into the 90s, high 90s, 100, low 100s, and here dip down into the 80s, right, as we got into last night. Let's back up a little bit, right? So last night, here we are in the 80s and 90s for most of the evening. Coming into the morning, I think we got up to maybe 115 or thereabouts. All right, so 122, and down into the 90s. Now this is now, let's see, so right here we are at 72 hours. If we go back 24 hours, this is at 48 hours. If we go back at 24 hours, that was on Wednesday, and then go backwards, and this is where we started, and blood sugars were about 104, right? So from that time, over the course of the fast, you'll see the blood sugars have been in the 80s and 90s, which is what we want, and we want them to continue going down. I think, let's see, where was that? And it won't show up on here. If we go back, and I can't do that right now, if we go back and look at the Freestyle Libre, you'll see that for most of yesterday, my blood sugar, according to the Libre, has been below 70. So we were 69, 68. Today it dropped down a little bit. As we showed, let's go back here. As we showed here, right on the graph, you'll see right there at the beginning of that graph, there was some red, and that is blood sugars that are below 70. So as your body is going through the process of using the energy that's there, then your blood sugars will fluctuate even when you're fasting. And that's a point that I want to make sure that you understand. Even while you're fasting, your body still has the ability to make sugar, because it breaks those triglycerides down and it uses the glycerol part to make the sugar. If you're in the fast, but your liver still has glycogen in it, then the body just goes to the liver and takes it out. So that should not be a mystery. If you've not eaten for 16 hours and your blood sugar is still high, that's because there's sugar in your liver. Because it takes about 24 to 36 hours for that now to go away. Okay, so let's make sure that we understand. And that's one of the points of all that we do, because I want you to understand, because we educate, we empower, and we encourage, right? Remember that? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. That's the Triple E formula for success. And so understanding how your body works is a big component of what we do. So let's go ahead and let's take a look, or let's hop over and let's say hello to some of our community members. So can I see you guys out there? So let's say hello. Let's see. So Pam is here. Pam was the first one to show up, and Pam says hello. Hey Pam, how are you doing? And then Steve says hello. Gian says hi, doctor. Hi, LLG. Glad that you are here. Gian said it is 3 a.m. Wow, and you're with us. So Gian, thank you for waking up and come hanging out with us. Steve says good morning, Gian. She said I woke up because her skin was itchy. We do the skin allergy. So sorry to hear about that. Cornelia says hello everyone. Gian, so glad to see you up. Definitely. Hi Cornelia. I think she says she thinks her exhaust is coming back. She said it wakes her up, and so it's hot. And Cornelia says, I hate to hear that. Cornelia says, yes, my fasting ends in a few minutes. So Cornelia has been with us the whole time. And once again, so let me do that. If you fasted with us the first day, put 1. If you fasted the second day, put a 2. If you fasted the third day, put a 3. And if you've been going with us for the entire time, put a T. Put a T in the comments. So Gian is saying, wow, good job. Steve says, what is your ketones today? She said, after fasting for 72 hours over the past week, I've lost 8 pounds. Look at that. Woohoo. Congratulations. Congratulations to Cornelia. She said, my biological age is now 5 years younger. So I love that. She said my blood sugar was 260 on Tuesday, and it's now 153. Man, look at that. I'll give you a hand clap, Cornelia. I love that. 153. And my ketones, her ketones are 1.3, which is amazing, right? So we want the ketones to be in the 0.5 or higher range, as we're talking about our ketones. We're talking about ketone or fasting or ketone mimicking diets, fasting mimicking diets. And I'm just fixing something here. Hopefully that works. My earpiece came apart. Gian says, hi Pam, how are you? And wow, amazing. So Gian is talking about, I believe she's talking about Cornelia's successes that she's had there. And then thank you for sharing. I love it. I love all of that. And Pam says, I am good. How about you? And this is the beauty of community. As we walk together, then we get to encourage each other in our journey, right? So that is always positive. If you want to go somewhere and you want to be successful over the long haul, and you want to continue that trend, right? Community is super, super important, and this community is amazing, particularly as we've been in the space helping each other, and now, I was talking to them after the show sometime this week, and I was saying that it's now understood when you say something and you're in a community that is aligned with where we're going, you don't have to explain. You say it and everybody gets it. Everybody understands what you're saying, and that is an amazing, amazing thing. So Cornelia says, documenting these things are priceless. Thank you. Yes. Awesome. Always documented. And Gian says, I am good, Pam. All right. So that's just hello to the community. Fasting check-in. I want to do a quick check-in, and let's go ahead and let's head over there, because I want to talk specifically about a couple of things. Let's see, where are we? Here we go. And when we do our check-in, we talk about how we're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Those are the 3 places where people tend to have their challenges, and they are 3 of the domains of health that we talked about. I'm in the process of doing a series with some of the churches in the area, and one of the things that I talk about is we're actually now going through the domains of health. Those are fundamental. They are pivotal in the understanding of the success you're going to have. These are pillars that set the basis, set the foundation for everything that you will do. And having those go right, having them working for you, is a tremendous benefit. So as I'm doing check-in here, right, the importance of them here in check-in, I mean, is beyond explanation, right? How you're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. But also remember, those translate into how we function in the rest of our lives. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about physical. So physical, I'm actually feeling good. I'm not feeling lightheaded. I'm not feeling sluggish. I'm not feeling low energy. This is at 72 hours. That's because I've done a good job this week of resting. Came home earlier in this week and I just went out, knocked out. And then the next several days, or last several days, I've been doing a good job. Woke up this morning a little later because I got the chance to sleep in because everybody's out celebrating today. But I got a chance to sleep in, and so well rested. And because I've been doing a good job of hydration, which we'll talk about in a minute, then I'm not feeling palpitations or any of those things that are associated with dehydration. And then mentally, feeling clear, not feeling dull, not feeling as though I'm foggy-headed, not feeling as though I can't think straight. All of that, a lot of that comes directly from how I'm doing physically. And then emotionally, lots of good things have been happening over the last couple of weeks for us. The community has been growing. Everyone is excited about the things that they're seeing results in their personal space, in their blood sugar, in their weight, in their ketones, in their getting off of medications. So all of those are positive things. And I just, being in the space, being in the community and hearing and seeing that excites me. And so that translates into an emotional high for me. And of course, being here with you, right? So we're going through our strength, strategy, and mindset, which is an amazing process. And every time I go out there, every time I lift the weight, every time I feel that burn, which it does come, right? In my head, it's like, okay, I am physically doing something right now that is helping my metabolism. And so it just all comes together. And that's the beauty of being on a plan. That's the beauty of following a blueprint. That's the beauty of having these guardrails and these checklists, because it's no longer a thought process about if it's going to happen. I know that if I follow the plan, it's happening. And so I am seeing the benefits, I'm feeling the benefits, I understand the benefits, and not only am I feeling good in terms of my physical health, in terms of the disease process, but also mentally there's clarity and there is connection that goes on, okay? But that was one of the points I wanted to make when I got to emotional, that sometimes we discard or discount the emotional, mental benefits that we get from fasting, but that is one of the most important, because it actually sets the pace or sets the groundwork for how the fast goes and how we feel. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to get into our discussion. But before I do that, I'm going to bring up and show you what we are, if I can stop dropping things, what we are eating today to end the fast. All right. And so, as you know, whenever I talk about fasting, or whenever I talk about eating, as part of our process, we have to engage with the concept of balanced bites. And remember, balanced bites is whole foods, minimized processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful. Those are the pillars of the balanced bites, right? How we fuel our body. Every bite counts. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look at, what we've got now as we are going to eat. And so here is, this is my salad, and I shouldn't say always, but most of the time, you will see me have a salad as part of whatever I'm eating, because the salad gives me bulk. And I understand that the brain gets a signal from my stomach based on stretch. And so when my stomach stretches, my ghrelin level begins going up, because the ghrelin is the hunger hormone. Ghrelin level goes down because ghrelin is the hunger hormone. And my leptin goes up, which is the satiety hormone. So one is going down, one is going up, and the signal that the brain gets as a result of that is, okay, you can begin decreasing eating. So the bulk for me is a signal regulator. So you'll see me have salad in most of the things that we have. Whether we're talking about my last meal before the fast or my first meal after the fast, there'll be some salad, some component there. And then walking through what we have. So this is a salad, and you'll see here, so this, I got some carrots. Of course, we've got the lettuce. I've got avocado, which is right here. Here is a cucumber right there. And let's see what else. We got some cheese that's under here, and this is some strip steak. Now this comes from the steak comes from a restaurant. The avocado, the cucumbers, the carrots, the cheese, those all come from here right at home. And then the lettuce, which was pretty much what came from with the salad. So the lettuce and the steak came from the restaurant. And this was something that was brought in yesterday from a local restaurant. And so I took the salad, well, I asked them to get me a salad with some steak on it, and I brought that home, and then I took that and I created the rest of this. Okay. Now you'll know that usually I'll have some nuts on that because Pam recommended a particular salad. I don't have that today, but created a different type of salad so we can go through that. So let's go through the components. And the components of this are really the components of Balanced Bites. Let me say it again. What I eat as my last meal before the fast and what I eat as my first meal after the fast is no different than what I eat on during my eating window. So the goal is that the process of eating is now all filtered through Balanced Bites. Remember, every bite counts. And so the fasting that we're doing is a reset for the body that helps the body get set for the things that you're going to do, and the things that you do now help to build the body. So the question is, what are we putting in? Now we've gone out and we've gutted the house, we've torn down walls, we've got rid of old cabinets and old floors and carpeting and so forth, and it's now bare. Now the question is, what are we putting back in there? And the things that we put back in have a lot to do with the things that we're eating. You've heard that idea of food as medicine. It is true that the things that you eat, not only the calories, so sometimes we say, oh, there's not a lot of calories in this, but it's not just the calories, it is the hormonal signal that the food sends to your body. For example, carbs will cause insulin to go up. We know that, right? Protein will help your body produce something called protein YY, which delays or decreases the transit or decreases the food as it moves, or slows it as it moves through your GI tract. That helps you feel fuller longer. Fats will help your body produce something called CCK, cholecystokinin. That slows the GI tract as well. It sends a signal to the brain. So those components, right, those signals I just mentioned, have nothing to do with the calories that are in the food. It is the type of food and the signal that the food is now sending to your body outside of the calories. So sometimes Sometimes we'll eat something and we'll say, oh, there's not a lot of calories in there, or oh, there are a lot of calories in there. But the underlying issue is not always the calories. It is that signal that comes from that type of food. So as you're walking through the space of, okay, what am I going to eat? You should be filtering everything through balanced bites. Whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, flavorful and portion controlled. And so when we look at this salad, right? Now we've got, so most of this is whole foods. Now the cheese and the dressing, not whole foods, right? Okay. Minimize processing. So once again, cheese, the dressing. The steak was fried and it had some sauce on it. So that, processing, but definitely the cheese and the dressing. What else? So lean protein. So here's the steak. I don't have a whole lot of other things that are on here. I don't have the nuts, which would give me protein as well. Healthy fats. So I've got some cheese on there. And then, there's some, I'm not sure what they fried this in, but if they did like olive oil or those types of things. Also, I have the avocado. So healthy fats. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables. Now I have the lettuce, which is a non-starchy vegetable. The carrots is non-starchy, but carrots can tend for a lot of people to raise their blood sugars. So you want to be careful with carrots as it relates to blood sugar. That doesn't mean you cannot eat it, but you now have to understand what the carrots will do to your blood sugar when you eat it. Starchy, non-starchy vegetables. We've got cucumbers in there, right? So that's a non-starchy vegetable as well. Let's see what else is under there. I think that's it in terms of vegetables. And then portion controlled. And so this, right? I probably need more protein. Let me back up. So I would, if this was all of my meal, I probably would need more protein. I probably would have added more protein if this was not my first meal. And so portion control, and then tasty. And I'm anticipating that this is going to taste good. Yeah. So if you're out there, what have you used? What have you used in the past to break your fast? What have you used in the past to break your fast? Or what did you break your fast with today? Put that in the comments. Put that in the comments. And so let's go ahead and let's jump into our conversation, because I want to get into, and usually I will go ahead and do the fasting, talking about what we're going to eat to break the fast, but I'm going to go back to the beginning and have that conversation in a different way and start out from, once again, preparing for the fast and how we get through the fast successfully. Okay, so let's hop over there really quickly. All right. Okay, so whenever I talk about fasting, the first component of talking about fasting really is setting the stage for the purpose of fasting. And in a quick nutshell, if we understand that dysfunctional metabolism is at the root of all of the disease processes that are talked about when we talk about the metabolic diseases, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetes, fatty liver, coronary artery disease, and of course diabetes, then the question that we have to ask, because if you now understand the problem, the question is, how do we fix the problem? What steps do we take? All right, so here's the problem. Okay, now we want to fix the problem. And so we come up with, okay, we've got to get the metabolism better. And then the question becomes, what steps do I need to go through to improve the metabolism? And then I start walking through those steps. And so fasting is a component of the step process, the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, that says that if you follow this blueprint, if you follow this checklist, if you stay within these guardrails, if you stay within the safety of this process, then you are doing the things that you need to do to improve the dysfunctional metabolism. And so one of those pillars is fasting. And so we are using fasting as a tool in the process, in the steps of getting our metabolism better. That means then that if dysfunctional metabolism is causing high blood pressure, then fasting, which fixes dysfunctional metabolism, improves blood pressure. If dysfunctional metabolism is causing a fatty liver, then fasting, which improves dysfunctional metabolism, improves fatty liver. I want you to follow the process. If I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, if I'm at risk for heart disease, if I'm at risk for a stroke, and that is the consequence of dysfunctional metabolism, then fasting, which fixes dysfunctional metabolism, is if something you can do for fatty liver, for coronary artery disease, for strokes, right? You see the correlation? And so we are in the process now of saying, okay, what do we do? How do we fast successfully? It is a tool in the toolbox. It is not the only tool in the toolbox. It is not the best tool in the toolbox. It is an amazing tool, nevertheless. And so as we're putting our hand in the toolbox to say, okay, what are the tools we take out now to get our metabolism better? We pull out the tool of fasting and we say, okay, how do we use this tool? Just yesterday, I went and I was doing some handy work around the house, right? So in the bathroom. So I'm changing out fill valves, and so I went to one of our local stores and got a 3-pack. And so I'm going around the house. And why they do a 3-pack, right? So most houses, I'm not even going to get there. Because I'm like, well, why did they only put 3? That's so I can have to buy another pack. But that's marketing. So anyway, so I'm going around the house, and so as I am trying to take out the old valve and putting the new valve, then I've got to use different tools. And so my son is with me, and so I'm showing him now, right, or teaching him. I've been teaching him about, okay, how do you use that? How do you hold that? What's the best way to do it? Because you can have a tool, and if you don't understand how to use the tool, then the tool is really you don't get the full benefit of it. And so fasting is a tool, and so how do we fast successfully? And that's the space that you are in right now. So we're doing a fasting review. What is the need to know? What do you need to know about fasting? And how do we do a successful fast? So when I talk about fasting, I talk about it in 3 different phases. How do we prepare for the fast? How do we fast successfully? And then how do we break the fast? And all 3 are important. There is no one that is the most important. All 3 are important, because if you don't start well, then the fast doesn't go well. Of course, you don't get through the fast well. If you don't end it well, then you undo the things that you've done in the fast. And so we want to make sure that we're using this tool as optimally as possible, because that is where we get our benefit. And of course, I did something right there. Boom, there we go. Okay? So that's what we want to make sure that we're doing, that we are doing what we need to do to be successful in the fast. Okay? All right. And so how do we get ready? How do we get ready for the fast? And here, the important thing that I want to talk about is the fact that the fasting process, how you get through the fast itself, has a lot to do with what you do prior to the fast. That's why I spend a lot of time when we do our check-in on Tuesdays talking about what I'm about to eat, showing you what I'm about to eat, talking about the foods, talking about balanced bites, because the things that happen in the fast, the length of time it takes for your body to switch into ketosis, the length of time that it takes your body to use up the glycogen, the length of time that it takes the satiety and hunger hormones to become regulated in fasting, the length of time that it takes for your growth hormone to go up and begin preserving your muscles, that is directly related to the food that you're eating going into the fast. Because if you do a good job, right? Whole foods, minimize processing, healthy fats, lean protein, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, no added sugar. If that's the meal that you ate coming into the fast, then the body doesn't have a lot to do to burn sugar. And so your insulin levels can begin going down sooner. If those insulin levels go down sooner, then the body begins using up the things that are in the liver, the glycogen that's there. And if that happens, then it gets to burn the fat faster. But if the body spends all of its time dealing with the sugar that you just ate, then it never gets to the place, or it barely gets to the place where it's burning these other sources of energy before you start eating again. So if you come into the fast and your blood sugar is 200, 250 because you just finished eating whatever you finished eating, and I don't know, 16 hours, 12 hours later, your blood sugar is still in the 200s, or is just now coming in below 200, then your body is still in the process of dealing with that sugar, and it cannot turn to the other sources of energy yet until it gets rid of the sugar that's there. So the meal that you eat that's coming into the fast, very important. So that's one. Right? And that is a big component. And that's one that I want to make sure that everybody understands. Because if you're not getting some of the benefits of fasting, let's take a look, right? Let's not scrap fasting. Let's not say fasting doesn't work. Let's take a look at the things that we're doing, not in the fast itself. Let's take a look at the things that we're doing on the outside of fasting, how we get into the fast. Okay? So it determines how successful you are in the fast itself. So then let's talk about physical, mental, and emotional preparation. And this is what we talked about in the check-in. Physical, mental, and emotional. All of those are important. Why are they important? Number one, with the physical, and we've already talked about the food, so we won't go back there. When you are tired and you come into the fast, the body will make transitions from burning glycogen to burning fat. Your blood sugar levels will start going down. And if you are not well rested, you will feel that as a significant drop. Not because the body's doing something wrong, but your energy level, well, let me go through an example for you. If you don't sleep well, the next day, in order to keep you functioning, the body floods your body with stress hormones and with sugar. That's why people who don't sleep well, the next day their blood sugars can be higher than it was if they had a good night rest. Okay? So if I don't sleep well, then the body will flood me with sugar, with cortisol. And that's to keep me going, right? That because it has to give me extra energy. If I start fasting, the goal of fasting is to lower blood sugar. So fasting is doing this to blood sugar. And because I've been using a super amount of sugar in my body to just keep me getting me through the day, because the fasting lowers the blood sugar, I'm like, man, when I fast, I just feel so drained. But it's not because of the fasting, it's because we were already amped up on cortisol. We were already amped up on sugar because of the rest. So when we rest and we come into a fast, the body doesn't have to give us extra sugar to keep us going. So the sugar level that's in there is a normal level. So when now fasting comes along and drops that, it doesn't feel as profound. It doesn't feel as big. It doesn't feel like it's such a big hump or drop. And that's because of the rest that you got the night before. So if we're not rested, then we feel that transition a lot more. It's kind of like if you start out with low energy, whenever your energy level drops, you feel it more. But if you start out up here, right, then everything kind of works out in the favor. So that's the rest. Let's go to hydration. If you are doing a good job of hydrating, when you come into the fast, you are going to, most people, when they fast, they don't drink as much as they do when they're not fasting. And that's just a function of our brain and our memory, because we're like, okay, I'm not putting anything in to eat. Okay, I'm not thinking about drinking anything either. I have to be careful of that. The last couple of weeks, I think in my check-in, I said that I had a headache. And the headache was, I realized that I had not been drinking. So what happens there? What's the physiology there? Whenever you're hydrated, you get up and your heart's going. The heart's pumping blood through the body, right? Well, if the amount of blood that's in my body goes down because I'm not putting enough fluids in, the heart still has to supply the body with the same amount of energy, the same amount of nutrients, the same amount of oxygen. So how do I get the same amount of substance to a place if I have less transportation, right? Say you've got, some stuff that you got to take over to your mama's house, or you're moving to a new apartment. If you have 10 trucks, you load the 10 trucks up and all 10 drive over, you unpack them, you put them in the apartment or in the house. But if you have one truck, what do you have to do? That one truck has to go several times, and it has to move a lot faster than if you had them 10 trucks. And the same idea in the body. When your volume in your body goes down, those are the trucks. If the volume goes down, the body still has to get the same energy, the same nutrients, the same oxygen to your blood. So how do you do that? Well, you just make the blood go faster. And so people will feel that as palpitations, like the heart's racing, skipping a beat, because they're not hydrated. The other thing is, what I started to say, is when you stand up or you're moving around, the body has the ability, when you're hydrated, when you stand up, your blood begins going to your lower extremity, right? Because gravity is pulling it down. But your lower extremity squeezes it up and it goes back to the heart so that the heart sends a signal or sends blood to your brain. That's why we don't pass out. But if the volume in our body is low, when you stand up and the body tries to pump or squeeze that blood back, it does, but not enough to prevent you from feeling temporarily kind of woozy. Now the body catches up, but that initial time when you first get, it's like, oh, whoa. That's because it took some time because there's not enough blood. So our rest and our hydration, two of the most important things, and along with the food, but we've already talked about the food, two of the most important things in preparing for the fast. So that's the physical. When we talk about the mental, this has to do with who we are and how we see ourselves in the fast. Am I someone who is trying to fast? Am I someone who is, man, they told me I should fast, so I'm gonna do it, but I'm not excited about this. Or I guess if I want, to get this, I guess I'll do this fast thing. But man, as soon as I'm done, I'm getting back on my regular diet. Now, if you go into fast with that mindset, you may be able to get through the fast. And you may be able to get through the fast successfully this time. But the next time, it becomes harder and harder and harder because the mindset is different. That's if you're able to get through the fast this time. You may not even be able to get through the fast because something is going to happen. Somebody's going to call you. Some stressful event is going to happen. Some trigger is you're going to see. And if the mindset is, well, I'm just doing this just because, then anything that happens is a signal, let's stop. And so we don't get through the fast. Not because there's something wrong with the fast, but because we came into the fast with a mentation that was not conducive for successfully making it through the fast. And so what is the mentation? What is the thought process that we want to have? The thought process we want to have is like the same thing, like when, like I told you, I was changing some things over in the house. It was, I knew I had to do that. And I was doing the thing, right? So I'm going to do it. I went to the grocery, or not the store, but I went to the hardware store, picked up the stuff. I came home, and now I'm in the house, and I'm getting ready to put it together. And so my brain says, okay, I need a wrench. So I go to the garage, I look in the toolbox, I get the wrench. Also, I got the pliers, by the way. Got the pliers, got the wrench, came back. Now, I'm not mad at the wrench, because the wrench is just a tool to get me what I want. I'm not fussing at the wrench, saying, well, I don't know why I got to use you, because the wrench is a tool to get me what I want. I get in there, I use it, ended up having to use the pliers too, which is why I brought it. But I'm not mad at the wrench, because the wrench is a tool that's getting me what I want. I am choosing to use the tool. I could decide not to use it, because I was in there, I was trying to use my hand, but it wasn't turning the stuff. So if I want to be efficient, then my mindset to the tool has to change. It is a personal choice that I'm making, that I'm going to use this tool to get me what I want. And what I say I want is I want to be metabolically better. So as you're going through, okay, I am doing this for whatever, you write that in there. I am improving my metabolism. I'm improving my blood pressure. I'm improving my sugar. I'm improving my cholesterol. I'm losing weight. All of those are things that you begin using to change the thought process, because the thought process dictates how you feel, emotional, remember, physically, mentally, emotionally, how you feel as you get into the past. And so we want to begin anticipating the success. We want to anticipate the benefits that we're getting from fasting. We want to see fasting as a personal choice and a personal tool that I'm using to do this. Nobody's forcing me to do this. I'm choosing to do this. That's the difference between fasting and starvation. Starvation, we don't choose. It is what it is. There's no resource around, and we're forced into that. But when our thought process is aligned, rhythm, alignment, and structure. When our thought process, when it's aligned with who we say we are, the rhythm of our life, the bent of our life, what our North Star statement is, what the purpose is. When it's aligned, then it stops feeling like we're being forced, and it is just what we do. Like, more than just what we do, it is who we are. Right? So physically, mentally, and then emotionally. And emotional, this is really understanding that in the fast, when we fast, it's not just about not eating. Fasting is not just about, well, I'm not eating a certain thing. Fasting has profound changes in physiology, changes in hormones. And when hormones change, when physiology changes, emotions change. And some of the most powerful hormones that run in the body on a normal basis are affected during fasting. Insulin, sugar, which is not a hormone, but a substance, cortisol, growth hormone. All of that will change how you respond to things, because they're changing those emotions. So remember what emotions are. Emotions are the result of feelings that you have towards something. So something happens and it has no effect until I give it meaning. Once I give it meaning, I develop a feeling about it. I don't like that, so I get mad. So emotion comes from the feeling. And that's regulated by hormones. And so understanding that there are changes that are happening, understanding what your triggers are, right? That's the heat model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. Understanding what those things are and how they affect us. Understanding that, okay, it's a holiday and I'm fasting and I'm going to be hanging out with people who are eating. And how am I going to feel if I'm in that space and they are all eating and I'm not eating? Not that you need to change something, but you have to understand that that is happening. That's going to happen. Or, man, this week, we have that meeting on Thursday and I'm going to fast on Thursday. Maybe I should change my fast to Monday or Wednesday or so. Right? So you begin adjusting what you do based on your understanding of emotions. Habits, emotions, physically, mentally, and emotionally. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to those things as you are preparing to get into the fast, because those will be ultimately what helps you and what takes you through the fast successfully. So here are some tips for preparing for the fast, some takeaways from this section. Ready? Here it is. Preparation is key. You want to prepare mentally. And notice that I only put mentally there. Right? We talked about physical, mental, and emotional. The reason I put mentally there is that your concept, the lenses through which you see everything, dictate everything else. The thought processes that we have, the words we say to ourselves, the way we care for ourselves, the intentions that we have, our understanding, all of that drives everything else. You want to also make sure you get rest. You want to eat nutrient-dense meals, not calorie-dense meals. And you want to get into community. Once again, if you want to be successful, you want to make sure that you are doing in community the things that you need to do to take you into that space. So that's preparing for the fast. But as I said, there are other phases of fasting. So preparing for the fast, getting through the fast, and of course breaking the fast. And when we get into the fast, the things that I want to talk about there is what goes on over the course of time. And we're going to talk about this over the first 24 to 36 hours. But whenever I talk about fasting, I talk about it in 24-hour blocks. That's why you hear me say, those of you who are fasting for 24 hours, or those of you who are fasting with me the second day, 48 hours, and then 72 hours, and so forth. So 24-hour blocks, but we're going to go through the first 24 a little bit more finely. And the first 6 hours of fasting really are not fasting. I'm going to pause there. The first 6 hours is really called the postprandial period. This is when the body is shuffling all the stuff that you ate into its respective places. So it's like going to the grocery store and you come home and you've got, toilet paper, you got paper towel, you got, plastic forks and plates, and you've got some onions, and you've got a piece of chicken, and so you got all these cans, you got all this stuff when you walk in the house. And what do you do when you come in? You take the stuff and you start putting them where they need to go. Right, toilet paper goes to the bathroom, paper towel goes in the pantry, the cans go in the pantry, the chicken maybe go in the fridge or in the freezer, depending on what you're going to do with it. You're shuffling it into different places. That's what's happening over the course of the first 6 hours after you finish eating. That's called the postprandial period. So if you, quote unquote, stop eating, you ate and you stop eating for 6 hours, and you start eating again, then the body has had no time to go to the liver to take energy out, and certainly no time to go to your fat cells to burn anything. Because you started eating 6 hours after the body just finished. It's kind of like coming home with the groceries, and you put it in the pantry, put it in the cabinets, put it in the refrigerator, put it in the wherever it needs to go, and then you get back in your car, you drive back to the store, and you come in with more stuff. And what do? You shuffling it again. You never cooked anything. You just went back and got more stuff. So postprandial period is that period where the body is shuffling and sorting all the foods. It's not burning glycogen. It doesn't have to go to the liver to get glycogen. And it's certainly not burning fat because it doesn't have to do that. First 6 hours, postprandial period. The next 6 hours is called the early fasting stage. And this now is kind of like going back to our example of a grocery store. You go to the grocery store, you come home, and you put everything up in the cabinets, in the refrigerator, and then now you decide, okay, I need to cook dinner. So what do? You go back to the refrigerator, you take the chicken out, you go back to the pantry, you take maybe one of the cans out, and you take some paper towel out to put it on the counter. All right, so what you're doing now is you're taking the stuff out and you're using it, you're cooking, you're making that meal. And so this next, the early fasting stage is what's happening. So the body has already, in the postprandial period, has already put everything where it needs to go, and now it's pulling it back out to use it. In this phase, right, insulin levels are going down because all the sugar that was floating around your blood has gone down. This is actually, these first two phases are the primary places where people can have trouble based on what they ate prior to coming into the fast. Because if the blood sugar levels stay high, then your insulin level stays high because it's still trying to sort through all the stuff. And if it takes you, 12 hours, 13 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours to burn or to get all the stuff into the cabinets, into the refrigerator, into the pantry, then you never get to the space where you're now going back and say, okay, now let me cook. Let me take some stuff out and let me go ahead and process it. So the body goes through the same process. This is the early fasting stage. The next is the 12 to 18 hour, and this is the transition to using fat. So the body it's sorted everything, and it's used up all the stuff that's there in the liver, or using up. And now it's starting to think, okay, I need to go, I've got some stuff on the counter that I'm cooking. Maybe the family sat down and we ate, and we put leftovers in the refrigerator, and now the stuff in the refrigerator is going. So now I need to, okay, if this is lunchtime, for supper, I need to begin thinking about what I'm going to cook. And so the body is now saying, okay, let me go to the pantry and take some stuff out. I know I'm beating the shopping example to death, but that's what it is. Right? So this is a transition to using fat. And then we get the ketosis that's beginning. So your body now is burning fat because it's used up most of what's in the liver. And it's now burning fat. It's going to the fat cells and say, hey, I need energy from there. And as it's burning fat, it's now creating ketones. And this is gold right here. Because when those ketones come out, we get all those benefits that we've been talking about in terms of fasting. When the ketones come out, we get the mental clarity because beta hydroxybutyrate is coming out. As we go into the fasting, ketones are coming out, we get BDNF, or brain-derived natriuretic factor. During this process, autophagy is going up, that cellular cleanup process that goes on in the body that decreases inflammation, improves immunity, decreases those cells that are poised to turn into cancer cells. This is where we start to get the mental clarity that we talk about. This is where we start to see people who are now having benefits for neuropathy and those neurodegenerative diseases. All of that is beginning to happen. Notice I say beginning to happen. And as we go further in the fast, then that continues and it revs up. It amps up. So we get better long-term benefit from this as we move into those longer fasts. So this is the 18 to 24 hour period. And then the 24 to 30-hour period, this is fat adaptation. So your body is now, it's like, okay, I got this now. So I don't have to, I'm not going back to the liver because everything there is gone. And I am in full ketosis now. I'm burning fat cells, or I'm burning fat. I'm producing ketones. My growth hormone levels are going up now. All of those long-term benefits are in super gear. It's kind of like, I tell people, it's the Marvel movies, Iron Man, when he takes out the old arc reactor and he puts in the new one, and he gets that, oh yeah, this is like great. That's what's happening. So the body has transitioned now from burning sugar, and it is in full, okay, I'm burning fat. And that is a great benefit. That's a great benefit to us. So understanding this change is very important. And so how do we in this process, now we understand what's going on in the body, what can we be doing during this time? Number one, don't schedule highly stressful events during your fast. Because whenever there's friction, the body produces cortisol. Cortisol's job is to raise your blood sugar. When the blood sugar goes up, insulin comes out. When insulin comes out, ketones go away. So don't do stressful things during, and when I say stressful, I'm not talking about going to work. Right? That's going to happen. But if you are stressed at work, prior to getting into the fast, this is the preparation now. You need to be learning in the process of developing tools that help you deal with stress. So it's not, okay, I'm stressing, I'm fasting today, so today I'm going to learn how to breathe. No, it's not going to happen today. That had to have been done yesterday. It had to have been done last week and the week before that. It has to be something that you've been practicing how to do so that when you need it in the fast, that stressful event, that you are able to regulate. The COPE model, COPE, clarify, observe, pause, and execute. That should be something that you are practicing all the time. Because when you need it, it needs to be able to function. Deep breathing. The box breathing that we did on in one of our check-ins, the ones that we taught you how to do. You breathe in for 4 seconds, for 4 count, you hold it for 4 count, you breathe out for 4 count, and you hold it for 4 count. Right? So box breathing. Counting. I count. Like right outside the window here, there is a tree. And whenever I get into one of those situations, right, roll up the shutter right there, and I'm counting leaves. Distracting my mind, distracting my brain. So what are your stress management tools? What have you learned? What have you put in place that helps you in the fast? Don't fast, or don't schedule your fast during a time when there's like lots of social stuff going on that you want to participate in. So if it's your family reunion, don't schedule your fast during the family reunion. Because our brain is going to rebel. Because we're built for community. And when you show up and everybody is doing their thing, you want to be included. Your mind, your brain wants to be included, and it will short circuit the fasting in favor of community. And so you'll go there, you'll break the fast, and one of two things will happen. Either you will become so frustrated and you feel guilty that you're like, well, you know what? I already did it, so might as well go all out. And so you just go on, you go in on that stuff, right? And they're like, man, I thought wasn't she fasting? Wasn't he fasting? Like, yeah, but I'm not fasting now, so boom, 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 boom. That's one. Or you will pseudo fast. You're like, well, no, I'm not gonna have that. I'm not gonna have that. I'm not gonna have this right now. Yeah, I'm trying to be healthy. And you'll do that until everybody goes away. And then you start creeping. Right? And you're eating stuff on the sly. And you're eating a lot of stuff because you don't know when you're going to be able to get it again. And you don't want the people to see you. So those behaviors are not the healthy behaviors we want. So during the fast, look at your calendar, look at your schedule, and fast according to what's going on. Like I do my fast on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I end my fast on Friday. I'm beginning on Tuesday. The Tuesday I begin it at that time after my meeting with my team. Because we're in meeting together, we're socializing, we're talking about stuff, we're talking about the practice, we're talking about, right? So all that's going on. That's a social event. And I ended on Friday because Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, that's when my family does stuff. We travel, we have, we entertain, we have got stuff at church, right? So all of that's happening on the weekend. So I'm not fasting on the weekend. Because I'm a social person. I want to be in there with everybody. So I've regulated my fasting schedule so that it fits into my life. Same thing that you want to do. You want to prepare for the fast, and during the fast, you don't want the fast to be, oh man, I'm doing that weird thing, and when this is done, I'm going to get back to life. It is a part of your life. It is who we are. It is what we do. So getting through the fast. And then the final thought about the fast, the same things that we talked about as we prepare for the fast, making sure we're getting rest, making sure we're hydrated. We want to make sure that we're doing the same thing here. Getting rest and staying hydrated during the fast, very, very important. Okay? And then, as we said, we have 3 components, right? How do we start the fast, preparing for the fast? How do we get through the fast successfully? And then, of course, how do we break the fast and be successful without undoing the things that we were doing before? That's the breaking of the fast. So what is the success that we see in the fast? So breaking the fast. Well, here are some tips for you. Number 1, monitor blood sugars. And you heard me talk about that at the beginning before we got into the whole fasting. Monitor. See what the foods you are going to eat do to your blood sugars. It is very eye-opening to watch this happen. Because there are things that you're like, man, I didn't even know that was happening in my body. And there's some things you think are happening that doesn't happen. Man, I thought every time I ate, I don't know, pick your thing, my blood sugars would spike up. Now you eat it, you're like, well, it's really not changing. So you get to change your behavior based on the numbers. It's data. Portion control. Make sure that you are maintaining portion control. When we end the fast, sometimes we're like, man, I haven't had any of this for a while, so I'm just going to have all of it that I can. And make sure you're eating slowly, because it takes 20 minutes for the signal to get from your stomach to your brain that you're full. And if you get in there and you're just going in on stuff, you've already eaten twice as much as you should by the time the signal gets there. So eat slowly. And then avoid sugary processed foods. The reason for that is because when you jump in and you're using those sugary, highly processed foods, the body has to produce insulin. I was saying to someone just last night in one of our community meetups or after the show, I said to them, if your blood sugar is normal after eating something that's highly sugary, in order for that blood sugar to be normal, your body has to produce insulin to keep it normal. I want you to follow me. Follow the thought. And let's pick something crazy, right? Let's pick something crazy. Let's say you went out to a restaurant and you had a bowl of pasta. You had some chocolate cake, a milkshake, and you had, I don't know, some cornbread. I'm not sure which restaurant gives you that combination, but that's okay. And now you check your blood sugars 2 hours later, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours later, whatever it is. And your blood sugar is now 100 after eating all of that. In order for your blood sugar to be 100 after eating all of that food, your body had to produce a massive amount of insulin. Does that make sense? Now, often we see the blood sugar that's normal and we say, oh, that didn't do anything to me. Well, it did do something to you because the body took care of it for you. This is whether you're diabetic or not. The body took care of all of those carbs that you took in. And how did it do that? Because it produced enough insulin to keep the blood sugar normal. And when it produces that much insulin, all of the downstream problems occur. Let's go through the list. Number one, right? So talking about the list. Number one, you feel like you can't get enough to eat. It's like I'm ravenous. You're eating everything in sight. Why? Because insulin stimulates the appetite. Your weight goes up. And so for the next 2 days, you're like, man, all I've been eating now, because you ate that stuff and then now you're being good. All I've been eating salad, broccoli, celery, and my weight's going up. Why? It's going up because of the amount of insulin that you took, that you had to generate when you ate that stuff earlier. Because of the amount of insulin that had to come out, our blood vessels are getting stiffer. So blood pressure goes up. My cholesterol goes up. I'm feeling more emotional because now my blood sugar is fluctuating. I'm getting spikes and dips rather than having a normal blood sugar, because the body had to produce a bunch of insulin. So that's the other reason why sometimes people was like, man, I feel low, but I ate like ice cream, cookies, candies, and cake. Well, the reason you feel low now is because in order to treat the ice cream, candy, cookie, and cake, the body had to produce a massive amount of insulin, and the amount of insulin that it produces may have been more than it actually needed, but it doesn't know that. And so it overshoots, and all of a sudden, boom, we're dropping. And all that happens because of the food that we ate. Highly processed, highly sugary foods. And there's some considerations when we're breaking the fast. When you break the fast, you want to choose foods that help maintain stable blood glucose levels, right? Which we just talked about. This is while you're getting good nutrition. So not high calories, but good nutrition. It wants something that's gentle on the digestive system because your body has been basically sleeping, particularly if you're doing some of the longer fasts. And then you want to focus on low glycemic index foods. We usually say GI that's 50 or less. Lean protein, healthy fats, which goes along with our balanced bites. And you want to make sure that you are hydrated. So just like you are hydrating when you start the fast, just like you hydrate when you get into the fast, you want to hydrate also when you are breaking the fast. And you want to make sure you're rested. Right? So the rest of the hydration, that doesn't go away. And then the thought. Let's go back to food. You are not eating differently prior to the fast and at the end of the fast than you eat on your regular eating window. So it's not a special meal to break the fast. It's not a special meal to start the fast. It is a meal that's consistent with what we talk about when we talk about balanced bites. Whole foods, minimized processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, and portion controlled. The same things that you eat to begin the fast, to end the fast, are the same things you are now going to eat during your eating window. Because every bite counts, and we are in the process of putting into the body the things that we need. So when we talk about fasting, fasting is a tool, but fasting does not change our concept of what we do for the body as we continue following the blueprint. Remember the health action plan? It's a blueprint. It says if you do this, you end up with the product that's on the box. It's a checklist. If you do this, the chances of getting there increase because you've covered all the things. It's a set of guardrails. It says if I go off course, I bump into the guardrails and it brings me back on course. It's a safety railing that says it's not confining me, it's not restricting me, it's there to keep me safe. And walking through the process is what we want to do if we're going to be successful. Awesome, awesome. So I love this conversation, right? And you guys hear me say that all the time because I like all the conversations that we have because they are really the fundamental things that we need to do. If we are going to deal with the 38 million people in the country that are diabetic, the 100 million people who are pre-diabetic, the 1 in 3 that they tell me, or the 1 in 3%, 1 in 3 that's going to be diabetic by the year 2050, if we're going to put a dent in that, if we're going to deal with the 1 billion people around the planet who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, if we're going to make a dent in that, we've got to do something different. We've got to change our thought process about how we manage our health. And this is a way that you can do that. Man, I'm always excited when I see you. I see some folks out there. Let me say a couple of things as we move. Let's get back over here. I see Cornelia said, so Steve said he ate chicken wings, macadamia nuts, and creme brulee. Yeah, it was like when Steve talks about his creme brulee, because that's pretty good. Cornelia says she broke her fast with bone broth. All right. She said, I plan to eat a steak salad for dinner. Okay, Cornelia, you're just like me. And Cornelia says, hi, Pam. I'm eating that salad you told us about. All right. It is delicious. Thanks again for sharing. Always, always. Let's make sure that I got... So Gion says that my salad looks delicious. Cornelia says salad looks amazing. Steve said, we just ate our daily meal, so it will begin... His blood sugar will begin going down. We will go to the gym after the show for our workout. Awesome. I love that. Love that. So for everyone, remember that we are, everything we do is based on our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the show, with the blogs, with the things that we do here. We empower with the tools that we are learning, the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, the HEAT model, the COPE model, our concept of rhythm, alignment, and structure. All of those are tools that allow you to put into practice the things that we are talking about. If we are going to be successful, they cannot just be things on the shelf or things on the video or things that we've heard. We've got to put our action to them, and that's what gives them power. We educate, we empower, and we encourage with the community that you are part of. And I love the community, the interaction, the benefits that we're seeing as you guys are supporting each other, as we are supporting each other. That is amazing. That is an amazing process to me. And as I always say, I love being here. Actually, let me can I take a bite real quick? Because I didn't do that. I've been talking the whole time. Oh, that is so good. Okay, just one more bite. Delicious. I'm glad I didn't do that earlier because... Okay, we educate, we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your healthy life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything from outside or anything from inside to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're showing up with our best selves, our best health, and our best plans for our life. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow we'll be back. Video from the vault at 9 p.m. Central. We'll be back on Sunday with This Week in Review, 6 a.m. Central, and then on Monday, right back here for Dwain Woode MD Live as we continue our walk and our journey to improve our metabolism. Have a great one, everybody. Enjoy your family. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.